Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I want to talk about the very recent shooting of Jayland Walker, a 25-year-old man in Ohio, who was killed in a police pursuit. Um, and I titled this Stay Calm and Objective because what often happens in these cases is a young person gets killed and the community goes kind of crazy about, oh my God, this was, totally uncalled for. It was a murder. The police murdered this young man. It was an unarmed young man. They pursued him for no reason, and so on and so forth. This is not a political channel, so I'm not making a political statement. What I do want to help people understand is the evidence in police shootings and why we should wait to find out all of the details before we jump to conclusions one way or the other. I'm going to read some of the NPR article on this and then make points as I go through the article so you can understand what the evidence is and why certain things happened and what we should be concerned about and what we should perhaps not exaggerate. So let's look at the article. This is from NPR, it's written on July 3rd, which is today. A black man who was killed by police was unarmed at the time of the shooting. Okay, right here I have a problem with the this headline because it is a headline that is leading you to believe something that is not exactly true. Yes, he was unarmed at the very time he was shot. He was not unarmed during the pursuit. There's a big difference between the two things. When you hear these unarmed when he was shot, you think, oh my gosh, this guy didn't even have a gun. He did have a gun. So let's go on and see what could have happened here. This happened in Akron, Ohio. A black man shot and killed by Akron police officers in a hail of bullets. Okay, let me stop here with the hail of bullets issue. When the police end up shooting because they believe that they need to shoot, because they believe that the person is about to shoot them or to shoot some other person, and you have, depending on how many police officers you have, the whole point of pulling the trigger on your gun is to stop the person you're shooting at from shooting you or somebody else. The only way you can prevent a person from shooting you or somebody else is to make sure they cannot shoot at all. So you're going to shoot and you're going to pull that trigger until the person is unable to do anything. There is no way that they can then harm someone. If you have one police officer, he may pull that trigger quite a few times. You got an automatic handgun, you can do that quite quickly. And you're going to do that. You're going to shoot for mass, not for legs and hands and things like that. You're going to shoot for mass to stop the person completely. And usually, essentially, you end up emptying the gun. So that can be, depending on what your ammunition is, could be 8-9 shots in a gun, something like that. If you've got 5 people shooting, you can multiply that by whatever they've got in their weapon. And so easily you could have 90 shots fired, 60 shots hitting. It's not that the hail of bullets isn't that they've gone over the top. It's just that they're doing what they need to do to stop the person from functioning. It just looks really bad. Now, if they had no reason to stop the person because there was no reason to shoot at them, that's a whole nother issue. But once you have the reason to shoot the person, the amount of bullets really, quite frankly, doesn't matter, except for this. If the person is on the ground and unmoving, and then you come up to them and they've got their hands out and they have no weapon in their hands, and you stand over them and then shoot down, boom, 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 boom. Okay, that you can say was not acceptable. But from a distance, if you're putting somebody down on the ground, it can be a hail of bullets and be very, very illegal. All right, so I just want to point that out. So he was shot and killed by Akron police officers in a hail of bullets following a vehicle and foot pursuit. And there is a problem right there. When a police officer goes to pull you over, as a citizen, that is what you're supposed to do. Pull over and stop your vehicle. There was a vehicle pursuit because he did not pull over. And then there was a foot pursuit because he bailed from the vehicle and started running. Officers said they feared he was preparing to fire when they discharged their weapons. Okay, apparently he was running, and in this particular case, I can't say he was running toward other people so that they were protecting the public from him. Although in certain cases, if a person is armed and running into a neighborhood, they can start shooting people in the neighborhood. So that is an issue. In this particular case, I don't think it was quite that. The police officers have said they saw him turn. And when somebody turns, you could say, well, he's just looking over his shoulder. But the fact is, a lot of times when people turn, and it's in the dark, you can't see, and you believe they're armed, they're turning to shoot you. That's when you people end up getting shot. All right. So anyway, that says here, Chief Steve Mylett said officers attempted to stop Walker's car early Monday for unspecified traffic and equipment violations. And this is an argument these days on whether police should even stop anybody who have these problems, like taillights out, bad license plates, things like that. But there is also a truth that a lot of times when these are issues with a car, there's also issues with the person behind the wheel, which is why they pull people over, because traffic stops often end up catching felons who have warrants out for them, and so on and so forth. But less than a minute into a pursuit, again, the guy did not stop the car. He went away from them, and there was a pursuit after him, because they're now saying we only wanted to pull him over for a traffic stop, and he's took off. Something is wrong. When somebody takes off, there's something wrong. They don't want to get stopped for some reason. And then they say the sound of a shot was heard from the car. And there's a dispute over this, so we're going to have to wait and see how true this is. But the Transportation Department camera captured what appeared to be a muzzle flash from the vehicle. All right. Mylett said that changed the nature of the case from a routine traffic stop to now a public safety issue. So if they saw a muzzle flash, then the guy is going out the window shooting at the police. It puts the police in danger, and any pedestrian on the street could be shot and killed as well, including children. So that is a danger to the community. Did that happen? Well, there's some talk about some shells on the ground in that location. We're going to have to wait and see whether how much proof there is to support that there was actually a muzzle flash, and that there was a shot fired from the suspect's car. I don't know yet exactly the truth on that, and that's what has to be investigated. Then police said a few minutes later the car slowed, and Walker emerged from the still moving vehicle. Again, he bailed. He bailed from the vehicle, so he was trying to escape, wearing a ski mask. Now, I haven't seen too many articles mentioning the ski mask issue, but it's in Ohio, and it is July. We're not talking about a COVID mask. We're talking about a ski mask. I do not know the validity of this report. I don't often trust the media. And this is NPR, so you would think they'd be possibly correct about this, but I haven't been able to verify. If they see that the police are pursuing a vehicle that won't stop, they see a muzzle flash and believe the guy is shooting at them, and then he bails out of the car wearing a ski mask, they're going to believe that A, he's up to no good, because he's usually not running around in a ski mask unless you're doing something wrong. Or you're skiing, but there's no skiing in Ohio in July in Akron. And they do not know that whether he has the gun with him or not, but they would assume he did. Why wouldn't they not think so? So if he bails out of a car with a ski mask and starts running, they have to be concerned that he can possibly at that point run into the community and cause somebody to be harmed. And so they have to pursue him. Some people think, they should have just let him go. Well, what if he did have a gun and he was crazy and ran into the community and shot a bunch of children up? Now, in that location, I couldn't see in the dark that there was a community nearby, but, if there was, he's a danger. All right. So he's wearing this ski mask and fled on foot. Now, apparently they said they saw him at some point where they're all chasing him. He turned, or they saw the movement, and they believed he was going to shoot. He was shooting at them, so that's when they all shot at him and killed him. All right. Now, when they did go to the car, they found a handgun and a loaded magazine on the seat next to him. So now this is not imagination. This is not the, quote, totally unarmed guy that they're talking about. This isn't like some fella just, whatever reasons, was stopped by the police and decided to run off and didn't have anything with him that it was even questionable. No, but this guy had a gun with a loaded magazine. So I'm curious to find out whether there's a missing bullet from that loaded magazine. What is going on with that? I don't know why he left it in the vehicle, but he had it on the front seat next to him, which is illegal right there. You're not allowed to drive around with a gun next to you on the front seat. We don't know yet whether it's an illegal weapon, whether he bought that weapon legally. So that's another thing we're going to find out. But he was, according to NPR, wearing a ski mask, evading the police with a gun with him. They saw a shot. They saw what looked like a shot being fired from that vehicle, and then he bails. They believe he has a gun, and they have a reason to believe he has a gun because guess what? He had a gun. All right. They also found a wedding ring on the front seat, which is apparently his fiancée had died, and so they don't know if it's his fiancée's wedding ring or not. And a casing consistent with the weapon was later found at the point where officers believed a shot came from the vehicle. So if that's true, he did shoot at them from the vehicle. All right. Now, interesting here, after an unsuccessful attempt at using stun devices, the foot chase continued to a parking lot. Oh, now here's a very interesting thing. The claim now is, well, if they really believed they were in danger, they wouldn't have used stun devices. They would have used the guns to begin with. So clearly they didn't think they were in danger. This is kind of interesting to me because I don't know how many times I've heard when a police uses a weapon, an actual gun, the complaint is you should have used a weapon to stun him. Why did you use a gun first? Why didn't you use the stun weapon? Well, now when they use the stun thing, they claim that proves that they should have used the weapon. It doesn't make any sense. So my belief is that he was running away. They used the stun trying to knock him down so they wouldn't have to shoot him. And when that failed to work and then he turned, they shot him with the actual guns, which is actually, they were trying to avoid killing him. He didn't give them that choice as far as the story goes here anyway. Let's see. After an unsuccessful attempt to use stun devices, the foot chase continued to a parking lot, at which point a crescendo of bullets can be heard. Milet said he had watched the video dozens of times, and Walker's actions at the time are hard to distinguish. And this, by the way, one of the problems we have when we're looking at videos under these circumstances is that things happen very quickly. They happen in the dark. Everything's moving. So we as an audience sometimes come to conclusions that really aren't true for people on the scene, for the police officers on the scene. But a still photo seems to show him going down to his waist area, and another appears to show him turning towards an officer, and a third picture captures a forward motion of his arm. So regardless of why he's doing that, in the dark, you cannot see whether he has the weapon or not in his hand. So what you're seeing is a guy turning towards you, and you cannot wait until he goes like this and shoots you, because you want to go home to your children if you're a police officer. So as soon as he makes that turn move, that's it. And by the way, he had opportunities not to be in that position, this particular gentleman. He had an opportunity to simply pull his car over, but he had a weapon in the car. And right here, I'm going to say, I'm going to guess that the weapon was illegal. I don't know that yet, but that may be why he would not stop, because he did not want to be caught with an illegally owned weapon in the car. So he kept going, hoping he could get away. And then more police pursued him. He didn't get away. And maybe at that point he panicked and leaped out of the car and tried to run. But he should have, again, just take your jail sentence. You know what I mean? Better than getting killed. But he didn't. He did everything that got him killed. All right, let's see. After the shooting, officers who fired were kept apart from each other and watched, and arriving investigators walked them individually through the scene. Each officer, independent of each other, related that they felt that Mr. Walker had turned and was motioning and moving into a firing position. All right. So they were all fully cooperating. There were more than 60 wounds were found on the body. That's not surprising when there's a bunch of officers firing at him. Some of them are going to hit him, and that's the way it works. 8 officers fired. So as I point out, they said 90 shots were fired, 60 hit him. Actually, that's usually a lot of times you miss. This is one of the problems. You can empty your whole weapon at a distance when somebody's moving and never ever hit them. They actually hit him, which was quite amazing. So anyway, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost vowed a complete, fair, and expert investigation and cautioned that body-worn camera footage is just one view of the whole picture. Before drawing conclusions, the full review must take place. This is why I say, stay calm and be objective, because I see all of a sudden we're having all these now protests now, how the police have murdered this poor unarmed black young man, and they're not waiting for the entire investigation to be finished. Officers have been placed on administrative leave. That is standard practice. All right. The family's asking for accountability. Fine. I don't have a problem with that. But then there's also a complaint from the attorney. That's this guy here. His name is Bobby DiCello or DiCello. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He says that gunfire from police occurred even after Walker was on the ground. Well, if he's still moving, that can't answer that can be yes, because if he's still moving, he can still turn and he can still shoot. And police handcuffed him before trying to provide first aid. Again, because you have to make sure that he is not a danger. And that's just practice. That's standard practice. How it got to this with a pursuit is beyond me, said the lawyer. Well, it got that way because he did not stop his vehicle. He bailed out of his vehicle. Apparently, he might have shot from his vehicle. He ran from the police and he turned. I can give you 5 reasons right there why this happened. All right. So at any rate, let the investigation follow through. And one of the biggest problems I have these days, and maybe this is a political statement, but it's not meant to be, is because of the constant attack about police. Now, I'm not saying there's not bad police out there. I'm not saying there aren't wrongdoings. And there are some times when a police officer needs to be charged with wrongdoing. But what's happening today is that we're getting closer and closer to making it impossible to have good police on the police force. The police forces are being decimated. Nobody is applying for the job anymore because there's one guy. Let me pull out the statement this one guy made. I thought it was a brilliant statement. Hold on a second. Let me find where I put it, because I want to quote him almost exactly. He had a longer statement, but I wrote this particular statement here. His name was Detective Tyrone Davis. He said, basically, when you join the police force now, it says basically we're one bullet away from death. And I have a law enforcement family, so I know I have been, I've lived through years of wondering whether my loved one will come home because they were on patrol in a not so great area of Maryland. So an area where there's a lot of crime. And I've also done a lot of ride-alongs, so I know the danger of being out there on the streets. So you're one bullet away from death. I never wanted to get that phone call. I'm sorry, or not the phone call, but probably the police officer showing up at my door to say, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but your child is dead." That person has been shot in the line of duty. So basically, we're one bullet away from death and one mistake away from indictment. That is one of the biggest problems we have today. That if a police officer, one, has to be willing to risk their life to take this job, but secondly, they're terrified now. If they try to prevent a crime, if they try to prevent themselves from being killed, they may be charged with a murder when they didn't, because they did their job or because they tried to do their job. So they become terrified about that. For example, this case has been labeled a homicide. So a lot of people are jumping up and down saying, yeah, see, it is a homicide. Yeah, a homicide means a person was shot. Homicide is when a person is killed by somebody else. Okay? That doesn't mean it's murder. It just means they were killed by somebody else. Murder is when a person wrongfully killed somebody. That's a completely different thing. So this is a homicide at this point, not a murder, until it's proven to be so, if it ever is. But we're having a problem getting anybody to join the police force, because why would you take this job on in an area where the citizens are going to hate you? The citizens are going to try to put you in prison for doing your job or making a mistake. And then you may get shot by the criminals too. So, it's becoming a job which you don't get much respect for, and it's so unsafe to do the job that it's not worth it. You can do something else. So the police departments are struggling to get anybody into the police department. And so their number of officers working is really, really low. And now the community is complaining the police officers aren't out there doing their job protecting the community. Well, folks, you're preventing police officers from existing, and you're getting what's left. And also, if you want good police officers, good professional police officers, you don't want to make the job not worth getting, so that the only people who will apply are the very people you don't want as police. So that's another problem. And as far as getting more Black police officers out there, Asian police officers, Hispanic police officers, what people call minority police officers in the United States, if you want more of them to join, you can't have them joining in a community that's going to hate them, for working in their own community. So it's a big mess. And so all I ask for people is, when something like this happens, the most important thing is to stay calm and be objective, and to allow the investigation to proceed without full of hate and finger pointing and saying the police are a bunch of murderers, because you're going to destroy your own neighborhood. You're going to prevent having any kind of law enforcement protection in your neighborhood. And the criminality rate is out of control right now. The murder rate is skyrocketing, because criminals feel free to commit crimes where the police ratio is dropping, and the police are afraid to do things now. They're letting things go because they can't they're like, okay, we're just going to back off here. We'll let that guy go. And if they had let this guy go and he'd run into the community and shot people, then they would have blamed the police for that. But, guys, stay calm, be objective, please, and allow investigations to be completed. If the police did something wrong in this case, and this young man was totally innocent, that's one thing. But on the other hand, if this young man was not totally innocent, then let the police finish their investigation and see whether they had a reason to pull the triggers on their guns. And so, and that's the way. It's a sad event, but that's the way it ends up. And if it's a person who is committing crimes, and at this point, if he's a young man who was, refusing to be pulled over, shooting at the police officer, carrying an illegal weapon, if he was, and possibly something else, if he was wearing a ski mask, he was a danger to the community, even if people didn't realize it. And he was committing crimes. He was a criminal, and therefore the police did their job as they had to do it. We don't know that yet. We don't know either side of it yet. We do know some facts, which are interesting, but let's wait till the entire case is determined, and not lose our minds before, without reason. And so that's all I ask. And that's coming from a criminal profiler's point of view of looking at certain situations where the police are involved, because the police can be involved with stopping a crime, but they can also be involved in committing a crime. It can go both ways. Let's wait and see. So anyway, that's my viewpoint on that. And thank you very much. If you're still here and you're not hating on me, do subscribe to the channel. I have a lot of cases that I analyze on this channel, and rarely is it a case in the news like this. But every once in a while, I think it's necessary to talk about it. So bye.